Hey, coaches, got a fantastic guest tonight. Nate Connor is the head football coach at DH Conley in Greenville, North Carolina. Nate's been the head football coach there for 7 years. He's been at DH for 12 years, and he's a 14-year veteran, coached in college for a little bit. Florida guy, just found out, Florida guy from the Jacksonville area. This is how I ran into Nate. Of course, I've heard about Nate, known about him for a long time. He's got a very, very highly regarded in the state of North Carolina. But I ran into him a few weeks ago at the Eastern North Carolina Football Coaches Association clinic. And Nate was basically the leadoff speaker. And he did a presentation on quarterbacks and quarterback drills that was absolutely amazing. It really did, Nate. It sounded like a big league college football coach up there. The way, the detail and the enthusiasm and knowledge that you brought to the presentation. But I'm an air raid guy, and we don't do all them drills. So I asked Nate to come on and teach his very best drill to us, and teach it, come on and teach it just like he's teaching his own kids. And he was kind and agreed to do that. So, buddy, I appreciate you being here, and I appreciate you doing this for me.
Coach, I really appreciate it. I appreciate the kind words. I didn't know who I'd have in there listening to speak, and it was an honor to be able to speak at that event. And I appreciate you being there and having those wonderful things to say. I've been blessed to have some other coaches teach me things and have great players to come in willing to work with me on it. And I've continued to evolve as a coach, and I want to just help share some of that knowledge with some of these guys. And so I appreciate you having me on the podcast or on the show.
Well, I tell you, you had a lot more in there when you were talking than when I was talking. So they were smart. They knew who to get in there and watch. But again, I appreciate you doing this, and I'm going to be quiet and let you teach it. Because like I said, it was truly impressive watching you go through the whole presentation, and I can't wait to see this one.
Awesome. Thank you, Coach. All right, I'm going to share my screen here. So, Coach, I'm going to go back out of this and stop share. I want to say this before we kind of jump into that. The quarterback position to me it's a very evolving position. It's a very complex position. There's so many different moving parts and things we ask a quarterback to do. And to the throwing motion, to the reads, to the protections and everything we do, I think there's a lot of complex stuff. But I think you kind of hit something on the head when you were introducing me and talking to me and saying something about being an air raid guy. And I think sometimes as coaches, we can complicate it sometimes. I think this time of year, when you're talking about quarterbacks, it's such an important time of year to be teaching them throwing fundamentals and working on their mechanics to throw. But it takes a lot of reps to really try to change those things. But so you have to be working on those kind of, not every day right now, but kind of teaching your young guys ways to do that. Because once you get into season and everything else, now we're teaching them concepts and reads and everything. So I think there's an ever evolving process with the developing of a quarterback. So I think you can't overflow with information. I think you have to have your things that you hang your hat on, your fundamentals you teach. And I think you have to really work those drills. And then within those drills, be able to coach the fundamentals all the time and be able to put it in gameplay. Because when the bullets are flying, and that's what we're trying to do with this drill I'm talking about, we're trying to make sure when the bullets are flying, and I got a 250-pound 3 technique and a 6'3", 190-pound defensive end going against my guy and coming to take me, and I'm not sure if it's too high, middle field open, middle field closed, and all that. And the last thing I might be thinking about is where I'm putting the ball, where my feet are, and everything else. So we really want to make that second nature. So what I'm going to talk about is not an overly complex thing. And I think it allows us, it's always something we're talking about with our quarterbacks, and it allows us to coach all our other things off of it. So what I'm going to talk about is called what I call setting your path. So setting our path as a quarterback is when we get to our platform, our throwing position. It's when we got our 2 feet in the ground and we're ready to pull the trigger. We've got our finger on the trigger, and I always talk to them about when you're hunting or you're shooting a gun, that trigger kind of surprises you, but you've got to be ready to go. And so when we want to get to our platform, we have to have our balance settled out. When we're ready to throw, we want to have our shoulders in the proper position and level and all those different things. So what I do to really work on is something I call set our path. And what our path is is anywhere we are on the field, wherever we're going to make a throw, really our path and our platform we're getting to is always the same. If I'm throwing to the right, it's really no different than when I'm warming up and throwing to a guy that's 10 yards in front of me. My mechanics and my throwing motion is the same. What's different is my feet, my footwork, my eyes take me to a different location on the field. And then I let the lines on the field determine really what angle I'm at. You know, when I throw to my right, yeah, I start out facing down the middle of the field, down the hash, but now when I turn out to the numbers, well, that's only the numbers and not straight ahead because I started out on the hash. So I think it's getting to understand that wherever we turn our front shoulder to, we turn our hips to, we're setting our path and we're setting our throw. And then when we get to that path, we want to set our balance and our base in that area. So the way I always explain it to them is we kind of want to have tunnel vision when it's time to pull the trigger on that throw and we're talking about the path of that throw. You know, I can't have my shoulder way open if I'm trying to throw the ball to my right and have my left shoulder pointed to the left numbers on the left side of the field. I have to have my front shoulder close to that. So I have to get my path and my base set to those things. So I hope that makes sense without me kind of being able to see you and just kind of showing the screen. But what I'm showing is this hallway, right? And I'm just trying to get them to set the path of my front shoulder, my front hip, my front knee, kind of all before I pull the trigger on that throw to be set to that path. Or like I'm in the woods and I'm blazing my path in the woods. So I always tell our quarterbacks, set your path. If I'm making a screen throw, a bubble, a now screen, whatever it is, I got to turn my shoulders, put my foot in the ground and set my path to make my throw. If I'm throwing a seam down the hash, I might be making a little bit tweak to the angle I'm making my throw, but my path is absolutely the same. Now, quarterback, they're always moving. That's in a perfect pocket because they're off-platform throws. You know, does Patrick Mahomes and Josh Allen have the ability to really get out there and move? And that's what makes them special. So it's not that every throw we make, but this is where we start our base from. This is where we start our throwing mechanics from as our platform and setting our path. Okay, so as I go forward, make sure I'm doing this right. All right, the screen's a little different here, guys. There we go. Couldn't find that. Okay, so the set your path drill. All right, basically what I said is it's setting our platform to no matter where we're making the throw, to the numbers, to the end zone, to the front pylon, to the back pylon, to the near upright, wherever it is, we're setting our proper base and platform to make that. We can do it on any type of concept, a screen, a quick game on an RPO. When we're riding and coming out, we're setting our path and our base with that in our play action game. And then our drop back. It's so important to get to the proper base to make the proper throw. So our goal of this drill is to make it second nature to have a great base on each throw we ask our quarterback to make. We want a consistent platform that gives us a great chance to be accurate. Because if we're really sound with our feet, so much in throwing and being accurate throwing and throwing with power and everything comes with our base. So if we're consistent in our platform and our base, we have a very good chance of being accurate because I think our arm will follow all those things. Okay. And by getting to our platform, I think this is very important too. I think when you have a good base and you get to your platform, it allows us as coaches to give different cues to break down why the throw might have gone wrong. You know, was I too open on my throw? Did I have my front shoulder closed? Did I leave my front shoulder hip open? You know, where was my platform? Where was my base at? So we go through that. Okay, so this is kind of a copy of the drill, and I hope this comes out of the screen. So you can do this a bunch of different ways. I have a player, and this isn't great video. You know, we don't have somebody following us around all the time showing drills. I got a couple of my guys to get out, and while I videoed them, we kind of went through some of those things. But basically, all we're doing is we got a guy snapping, and you don't have to have a snapper. But what we're doing is working on, and this is our one-step passing game right here. So if I talk a little bit about our quarterback stance here, we should have a bend in our knees. And you can see I got a right-handed quarterback. So he's going to pivot. We're one step. We don't take a punch step. We take one step when we throw our quick game. Very similar to our screen game as well. So we got our weight on our left foot. That's where our mental weight is, that we know we're ready to spin and pivot off this left foot. We're going to dig that cleat in the ground and be ready to pivot if we're throwing to the right. If we're throwing to the left, not so much. But right now we're simulating throwing to the right. So we're going to keep that left foot stuck in the ground. We don't want to take a false step with that because that's wasted time. You know, when we're going quick game, we're trying to catch and throw. We're trying to get the laces. I think what takes longer than anything is the processing of reading the defense and finding the laces. But we don't always have the time to find laces. It's just getting the grip on the ball. But we don't want to waste any time on our feet. We want to put the weight, the balance on that left foot, and then we are going to pivot off that foot, and we're going to be making a throw to our right. So our target out here, you can kind of see our shadow is out here to the right. And all our quarterback's going to do is he's going to pivot off this left foot, swing his back foot around, right? And then we're also talking about a clock. We almost want to get back to 6 o'clock as we go around this thing. We're swinging our back foot back to 6 o'clock, okay? And then when we aggressively get that foot in the ground, now we're aggressively bringing our front shoulder around to the front of our target. And that's all we're doing. So if I want you to imagine, if you're on a line that you can see here, or you're just this quarterback right here is throwing to the guy in front of him, he's going to turn his hips a little differently. He's going to make a simple throw like in the warm-ups, and he's going to have his front shoulder turned to the start at the target. He's going to have his hip right here. He's going to have his front shoulder. He's going to have his knee, all those things starting at the target, right? And he's going to make his throw, and that's what he does all the time. He does it without even thinking, okay? But now when we're talking about throwing out to the right, our throw is not any different. It's just we're setting the angle we're making our throw. It might have a little more distance on it, but that doesn't have anything to do with being accurate and getting our base set to there. So what we do is now I've taken that quarterback that was right in here, and I've made my guy that's over here, my target that's over here, and I've turned my base and my platform, got my front shoulder square to this target here, my front hip square to this target, my knee is square to that target. Now I'm ready to go through my throwing progression. Now I'm ready to go through all my mechanics that I teach in the throw. The separation of the ball, bringing the ball over the top, finishing with the back shoulder at the throw, the proper step to open up, the L step to get the ball out, and then the weight transfer, driving the ball with our hips, following through, all those different things. But none of that stuff necessarily matters if I don't set my base the proper way, okay? And that's all it is. So what we'll do, and I will go through and keep showing these, is all we're doing is taking reps right now. Now, can you add throws onto this? Sure, I don't have the clip of that, but all we're doing is taking that snap, and we're aggressively getting our feet in the ground with urgency. Now I'm going to the right, okay? Now he's taking a little further. What we're doing when we go to the right is he's not stepping in. Let me go forward here a little bit. He's not necessarily stepping back, because he's not going to come around to 6 o'clock, because then he's going to have to swing his hip open anymore. He's going to step a little further back, now be ready to swing his left shoulder open to his target. Now he can see his target here. So he steps more back to 5:30, 5 o'clock, 5:30. And now what he wants to make sure he does here is, okay, and mechanics of the throws, we can coach different things with his mechanics and everything else. That's not necessarily what I'm talking about here. What is, I want to be my path set to make this throw straight ahead to this quarterback on this receiver, straight ahead here. And I want to have my pass set with my front shoulder that you can't see right now, my hip there, my foot. And I want that to become second nature. I want that to be automatic, just going down rep after rep. And we will take snap after snap, and we'll start with just setting our feet. Then we'll go to setting our feet and separating the football. And I'll show you with our next quarterback. So he'll go. Now, I think there's some things to coach up with this. I think he could screw his foot in the ground a little bit. I think he takes a little bit of false step. But now he's getting to his base, right? And he's getting back, and he's getting set. He's catching the snap, and he's setting his front shoulder to make his throw. And now it's just the same throwing mechanics throw. So now we have to put in, when we get to this position, now we're ready to throw. Now everything comes back to the upper half. Now it comes down to, how am I bringing that arm through? Is my hips leading the arm? How am I transferring weight to my front foot? Am I taking a long stride? Well, then that's where the complexity of the quarterback position and throwing mechanics really comes in. What we do with the front arm, how we get that ball from what I call the horizontal L, or the horizontal 90 to the vertical 90, and then over the top to our target, how we follow through. But I don't think any of that matters when it comes to being accurate on a throw if we don't set our base the proper way. So we will rep after this. And I don't have, I'm sorry, more 3-step drops. But if I were to do a 3-step drop, basically all I'd be doing now is I'd be pushing and driving what we call our drive step back away from the line of scrimmage off my first step. Then I take my second step when I get this foot in the ground. So I pivot and drive and get this foot back to here. Now I'm going to bring my heel in front for my second step, which I call our break step because we're stopping our momentum backwards. And then I want to be able to get my third foot in the ground right here. But when I get to my third foot in the ground, I'm going to end up in this same platform. So if I was to be able to get in a third, even if I was going 3-step drop, I would expect him when he gets to the top of his 3-step drop to be in this same position to be able to make his accurate throw out to his target out here. Now, are there mechanics within the drop? How do we get to the throw behind us? Yes, those are all things we have to teach. But I think we have to understand this is a position we want to get to, so then they can understand, hey, I need to do this. I need to take my V step, which I call it, that's 45-degree angle to the line of scrimmage. That's going to be able to get my front shoulder over so I can set my platform the right way, not be swung open. The same with those screen throws and everything else.